Today we're going to talk about fear of disappointing people and people pleasing and what maybe you can do about it. So I'm wanting to do kind of a series on INFJ weaknesses because I feel like a lot of the videos out there talk mostly about strengths and things that are great about this personality, and you know, they kind of got us painted as like these mystical, you know, amazing creatures or something. But I want to talk about, you know, the weaknesses. So this was the one of the list that I looked over and compiled. This was the one that kind of resonated with me the most right now, is fear of disappointing people and people pleasing, which is what ends up happening when you have a fear of disappointing people. You end up doing what people call people pleasing. So that was a lot of people. Anyway, I'm really nervous today for some reason. This topic, I'm not sure why, but it really makes me nervous. So just bear with me. I might be a little goofy. So yeah, uncomfortable with making people feel bad. Because you can absorb, or I can absorb and pick up people's emotions, I really am a lot of times uncomfortable with making people feel bad. And if it's a decision that I've made that makes them feel bad, or something that I have said no to or didn't allow to happen, then I almost feel responsible for their feelings. And at this point, you know, I've thought about it a lot, but at this point, other people's negative emotions feel stronger than mine. So picking up someone else's, you know, upset feeling or their sadness or anger or whatever, it feels stronger than my own emotions, and that can be really, really uncomfortable for me. Now, I know this isn't a problem that is exclusive to, or a weakness that isn't exclusive to INFJs. I know lots and lots of people and lots of different personality types have this issue where they just are people pleasers, and they want to do everything they can to make everyone around them as happy as possible or as comfortable as possible, neglecting themselves in the process. And for me, and for a lot of INFJs and then other personality types, I have just this deep desire for peace and harmony. You know, I want my environment everywhere that I go to have just this deep peace and harmony. I want everyone to be happy. I want everyone to feel good. And maybe even if they're not happy, I want them to feel peaceful, because I need my environment to feel peaceful so that I feel peaceful. And when it doesn't, you know, then I will attempt to fix the situation, and in ways that, you know, probably aren't healthy. I will explain away other people's behavior. I will try to make peace by, you know, trying to like arrange everyone, or make sure someone doesn't sit next to someone else, or trying to do some work that isn't my responsibility. Like, for example, you know, my son had lost, they're probably going to be real embarrassed that I'm talking about this, but my son had lost something of my daughter's, and it was something valuable to her, and I had told him that he needed to look for it. And, you know, he's like, oh, I looked for it, I can't find it. Well, of course, you know, he's 16, so he didn't really look for it. He just kind of looked for it. And so she was really upset, and then, you know, I am feeling her upset emotions, and, you know, two teenagers in the house is a lot of emotion, and they don't really have any mechanism built in yet. Well, not any. They don't have, you know, an adult mechanism built in yet of how to control their emotions and how to deal with their emotions. So it kind of just all comes out. And also, they're both extroverts, and they're both very verbal people, and they don't keep a lot in. So anyway, so instead of, you know, making my son go find the thing before he did anything else with his life, I went and looked for it. And that wasn't my job to do. That wasn't my responsibility to do. But that was going to fix the situation for me. Because then if I could get my daughter her thing that she wanted back, and I didn't have to put my son through having to look and inconvenience him to do something that he was responsible and told to do, then everybody would be peaceful, my house would feel good again, I would feel good again. I can remember when I was a younger person and still living at home with my parents, if there was, you know, anything going on that felt negative to me, I would start cleaning. And I know that that is where that coping mechanism came from. So, you know, whenever something feels negative, even in my own home, or even if I'm at someone else's house, if something feels negative, people are arguing, there's, you know, anger or frustration or any of those kinds of emotions, you know, I start getting this anxiety, so I will start cleaning. And that doesn't deal with what's going on inside of me. It doesn't deal with the situation, but that's kind of a coping mechanism that I've picked up, and I'm recognizing it from back in my childhood, that I would just start picking things up or washing dishes or whatever to avoid the situation. And I want to go into a little bit what it feels like when someone else, what it feels like for me when someone else is upset or angry. I can say when someone else is angry, I have this tightness in my chest, and it kind of comes up in my throat a little bit, and it feels very like squeezing, like everything is really tight in there. My hands don't shake, but they feel like they are shaking, and I feel very panicked. I feel like my heart is racing. I feel like I need to get busy doing something. I can't just sit with this emotion, and those are always just someone else's emotion. If I am angry, I do get angry. No one really sees it very often because I like to keep control of that emotion because it's scary for me. But when I get angry, I don't feel that way. So it's always someone else's anger, you know, coming toward, well, it's not even if they're angry at me, you know, if they're just angry at someone else and they feel angry and it's, you know, coming into the room and then I'm absorbing it, that's when I feel that like chest tightness and I'm being squeezed and I need to run away. It's almost like a fight or flight, except I don't fight, I just run. So I just run and scrub something, and then that's what I've been doing, which it's not the best way. So I'm trying to, you know, of course, find other coping mechanisms, and I think I say that in every video. But another point about this thing with fear of disappointing people is that, you know, we have high empathy and low priority on self-care. So empathy, of course, is, you know, putting yourself in someone else's shoes, being able to feel what they're feeling, and it's not feeling sorry for them, but it's kind of a rough one for me to explain, but it's just really putting yourself where they are and feeling what they're feeling and just being able to love them in that. And then the low priority on self-care is that we really, you know, taking care of ourselves and our own emotions, even though we have great empathy for other people, we don't necessarily have good empathy for ourselves. So our own needs and our own emotional welfare kind of gets pushed to the back burner, which makes us an easy target for others to disappoint or take advantage of. And, you know, it seems like there's certain personalities that can take a person like me or another INFJ or, you know, personality types that have, you know, this high empathy, and they can really like suck us up and say, oh, you know, I can really use this person and I can really get a lot out of this person. And that's definitely happened to me, and I'm learning to recognize it, and I need to stay away from those people or just, you know, limit my time with them. I think I'm gonna be real sad when I have to when it gets cold outside and I have to find a different spot to sit, because this has been my new favorite spot to film. But moving on to what can we do about this behavior? There's a few things. When I was writing out the outline yesterday, you know, God kind of said to me, do you want to serve me or do you want to serve man? And that actually reminded me of something that I had said to someone a few years back. I used to be part of a prayer team at my old church where I would, you know, speak words over people. And you can call it, you know, introverted intuition. Some people call it, you know, it's prophetic gifting. But I would just, you know, have things like, it kind of like pop into my head, you know, God speaking for this person. And I typically would write them down because it wasn't always when I was with them. So I would typically write them down. So I'm going to just read this one because it was really about people pleasing and it really fits in today. I had to dig through some old journals to find it, but I did find it. So we continually say yes when our spirit says no, is giving that person the status of God in our lives. Saying no is not selfishness. It is the lawful exercise of our personal authority. Another's wish becomes my command only if I am his or her slave. 1 Corinthians 7:23, you were bought at a price. Do not become slaves of men. Rather than submit to men, we need to submit to God. So, yeah. So that was my thing, and that, you know, really I was speaking for another person, speaking that over another person, but really I'm speaking to myself as well. Putting on my nervousness oil. It's this essential oil roller that makes me feel better. Anyway, yeah, the next thing, it's biblical, and, you know, God doesn't want us to be people pleasers. He wants us to, serve him and not serve man. So yeah, it's not selfish to say no. It's not selfish to take care of yourself. Then here's the things that I've kind of been doing. So you have to connect with your own emotions to identify them. Because when you are someone that absorbs other people's emotions, and when you're picking up, you know, like this person's sad, that one's jealous, this one's angry, that one's resentful. When you walk into a room, you really have to connect back with yourself and figure out, like, what am I feeling today? And, you know, a friend of mine, she is very similar to me, and she was explaining that your own emotions can kind of be like chronic pain. And I don't mean that they're like pain, but they can be like chronic pain in a way that you don't really notice them anymore. That they're really low-lying, your own emotions, and they're easily ignored because other people's feel stronger, like I said before. So you really need to connect with yourself and have some time every day in the morning. You know, you can call it quiet time or prayer time or meditation or whatever, where you're connecting, like, this is how I feel today. And these are the emotions that I'm having. And sometimes throughout the day, you have to go back and identify again, what are the emotions that I am having? You know, what do I feel like? Not what does everyone else feel like? What do I feel like? You know, I am peaceful today. I feel happy today. And, you know, you are responsible for your own feelings and reactions only. You are not responsible for your neighbor, your coworker, your daughter, your son. If they're upset, sad, mad, whatever, you don't have to be. You don't, that's not your problem. You're responsible for your own reaction. You know, I'm responsible for my own reaction. If my husband is upset with me because I didn't do something for him that I felt like wasn't my responsibility, that's his reaction. And I have to just say, okay, that's all right. You know, that is your responsibility and you need to do that, rather than just being loaded and loaded and loaded with all this work that isn't mine and that isn't yours. And you need to remind yourself what is your responsibility and what is for you to do and for you to take care of. And you have to stick with it. You have to be strong. You have to be courageous, because, you know, for some reason it takes a lot of courage and bravery to say no and to say, you know, that's not right for me. That doesn't feel good in my spirit. I should not be responsible for you and your reaction and your jobs that you need to do. So you will disappoint people. Definitely. You know, I will disappoint people probably every day. You know, we're human. We make mistakes. We make bad choices. And, you know, we're going to disappoint people, and that's just the way life is. But, you know, but I'm responsible for my reaction to disappointing someone else, for my way of loving other people, and that's it. And yeah, I think I'm done lecturing about that today. Wow. Anyway, I have a question for you. Who are the hardest people for you to say no to? For me, it's my immediate family. I'm getting way better at the people outside of my immediate family, but my children and my husband that I love so, so dearly and that I'm so connected to, it's the hardest for me to say no to them and to not do more for them than is healthy. So in the comments, please answer that question for me. Who are the hardest people for you to say no to? And have a good week, guys. Thank you so much.